Okay. Welcome to today's Inspire Your. Let me say that again. Oops, sorry. Welcome to today's Inspire Your Inner Power Conversations that Transform a panel discussion. My name's Sophia from Sacred You. We have the honor of hosting today's panel, which is all about who is in the driver's seat of your life. What am I feeling and thinking changes everything. And with us is we have these beautiful women, but specially may I introduce for the very first time as an incredible facilitator, the beautiful Denise Blackney. Denise has been with us quite a lot as a panelist, but today has taken that step to be a facilitator of this incredible panel with all these amazing women. So Denise, I'm going to hand it over to you and I will be back at the end and have a wonderful conversation. I'm going to be sitting here listening to everyone, taking lots of notes. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sophia. And thank you, ladies, for sharing this beautiful space. And so welcome. I wanted to put a bit of context behind the label of who is in the driver's seat of my life. And when I came up with this, I came up with, we spend a lot of time in our car. So, and I'm usually in the driver's seat driving the car, and then we have all the other seats and even the boot. We have that we pile things into, we pile our family, but sometimes we can feel that we're in the passenger seat, or I'm in the back seat, or I might even be in the boot because how I'm feeling today and how I'm showing up in my life today can put me in those positions. And sometimes I drive the car really well and I'm in that driver's seat, but then there's someone in the passenger seat saying how I should drive my car or how I should drive my life. So that's how I came up with that. So just to put a bit of a context behind and give you ladies a bit of the way I was thinking and the way you think how you drive your life, like driving a car, and whether you're in the passenger seat or in the boot or in the back seat, are you strapped in, and how that looks for you. And a lot of that comes into what I am feeling and thinking can change everything and what position I am in my life and how I'm driving my life. So thank you so much for being here and sharing this beautiful space. What I'd like to start with is just share a little bit about yourself, and so everyone can get a feel and see where you guys are at as well. So Jennifer, I'd love to start with you if you'd like to share.
Sure. I'm Jennifer Passavant. I refer to myself as a holistic healer because I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach. I'm an energy healer by channeling a seraph angel and the ascended master Kuan Yin to work on people's chakras and energetic fields. And I'm also a health and wellness coach. So it's kind of a mind, body, spirit approach. And I don't know if you want to know any more than that, but that's kind of the meat and taters of who I am and what I do.
Beautiful. I love that. So right in there. Rosemary, I'd love for you to share.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the panel. I'm very excited to be here. And a little bit about me. So it's been a long journey. It's taken me at least 7 decades to get to where I am now. I'm the owner of and founder of the Riva Experience. And the Riva Experience, I didn't want to call it the Riva Company or Inc. or anything like that. I wanted people to know that it's an experience. So I help women 45 and over discover their self-worth, their purpose, their confidence, especially after life transitions like an empty nest, retirement, when you're asking, now what? After you've helped your family, has supported them, now it's your turn. So I do that through various modalities, reflection, exploration, visualization, and alignment. And I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Thank you. Lauren, about yourself.
Hello, I'm Lauren Edwards, and My journey is a little bit different. I've been in law enforcement for almost 22 years, and I'm an assistant chief at one of our local law enforcement agencies here in Virginia. And I also ended up starting my own business, Lady Cop Lauren, as a way to empower women who ideally kind of want to get into law enforcement. And then for those who are currently in law enforcement, to be able to encourage them to take leadership positions and also to celebrate the current and former leaders that have paved the path for all of us. But that's also kind of evolved into some other areas of corporate work or with physicians or anything, because I'm such a believer in personal development and how my own personal development ends up impacting others through my leadership has been an incredible journey that I love to be able to kind of share with other people and try to help them get onto that same path to try to figure out how to make that all kind of work together.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And Quinn.
Hello. My journey's, I guess, quite different. I had been very psychic and very into personal development, and then I became a victim of human trafficking, and that really led me on a not so nice path. I have done a cert for in life coaching and NLP, and degree in screen production. So whilst I've been on that journey of spirituality, I guess I detoured off it for a period of time and then kind of found my way back into it. But I'm wanted to help others with their videography and social media and virtual assistants, but come at it from a very heart-centered, women empowering women perspective. So, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. Myself, I help teach, coach. I suppose we can use a lot of words, but I love sharing all the tools that I know to help people to self-heal and find the essence of their heart to live it. And through all the stuff and life and journey that I've been through, I pass on all the tools that I've gathered along the way to be able for people to see themselves. So, but I love how we all come from different spaces and different times, and that we all have and have been and journeyed through life to be able to inject into the world a different perspective, a different way that we all think and feel that we can share with others. So thank you for sharing yourself with us. And as our theme is about who's in the front seat of your life, who's driving it, I'd love to start with the first question, and I'd love to start with Lauren, if I may. And I'd love to ask, in your healing journey, especially in the background that you come from, how did you begin to separate your true self from the version of you shaped by trauma or survival?
One of the consistent parts of my life that has allowed me to work through trauma at work, trauma with my home life, anything like that, has really been a morning routine. And for me, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Miracle Morning with Hal Elrod, but um, probably over a decade ago, I ended up reading his book. A friend had recommended it to me, and I still use a variation of that today. And so it's like silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing are his savers, and however long that takes. And um, it's really just that consistency and taking time out for myself that allows me to put me first and forward in my day before I go and give myself to so many others. And then when I was going through, again, just some personal traumas, maintaining that consistency in that morning routine allowed me to, I think, get through those a lot better and be able to have just that little glimmer of being able to just focus on me and find my inner self and find my truth and work on things, even though some of it was realizing what I needed to work more on, and maybe other resources that I needed to bring into play.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how you say that routine, consistency, focus, and it's all about you,
Hmm.
which is the
And
most
if I
important.
do not get that time, if I vary that, um, if I don't get in that morning routine and that dedicated time that I've cut out of and made a boundary for myself, um, my day is different
Mm.
and my thought processes are different. And the ability to be as efficient as I want to be in my day is different. So I know that am setting myself up for success to have my best day possible and be the best for me, but also be the best for others as well when I make sure I take care of that from the time that I get up.
Yeah, I love that boundary, but I really like to put it's a love boundary for myself,
Hmm.
which is so
Yes.
beautiful because you do set yourself up for success then for the rest of your day.
Yeah. And
So,
even if that means that you get up a little bit earlier to create that time in your schedule, that is just something like people would, um, you know, make fun of me all the time for as early as I was getting up. And I was like, well, that quiet in my day and that morning routine for me was so sacred. And it was the time that I only got to myself, that I only had to answer to myself before the world woke up and everybody else was asking things of me and trying to pull me in all of these different directions. And especially when, kind of dealing with some of the, unfortunate things that happen with life, at least being able to have that as, you know, my foundation it's just a non-negotiable in my life now. And regardless of where I'm at, if I'm at home or on vacation, those things happen for my morning.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I can really feel that allowing yourself to do that, it also brings change in your life as well. Because,
Mhm.
when we feel and think, when we're loving ourselves that way and putting that focus on ourselves, that changes our perspective. That helps us feel and think differently about things that keep coming up for us to look at. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd
I
like
love that.
to,
Oh, sorry.
no, that's all right.
I
I would,
love that. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday where a lady said she actually sometimes, when things were getting really bad, she would have 3 showers a day because that was the time that there were no kids in the room. She could just, be with her thoughts. She had a skincare product range, and so she would get in the shower and use her skincare products. And again, it was self-care. It was really good.
and what about yourself, Quinn, with the same question? In your healing journey, how did you begin to separate your true self from the version of you shaped by trauma or survival?
I think the first step was recognizing it. So for me, I went to a course and it was more on um, manifestation, but it was sort of realizing that the person that I used to be and the person I'd become had changed, and it wasn't in a good way. So it was, things that had fallen away, like, my spirituality, it was the social interactions and the um, being on my own, like the lack of planning. So because there was so much going on and there wasn't the headspace to do anything, I wasn't, pre-planning my activities. So I'd get to the weekend and then I'd have nothing on. So I'd spend the weekend alone. Um, and then that has the flow-on effect of then you aren't getting that social interaction. So for me, it was really about taking, and a little bit what, sorry, I can't remember her name, Denise, the lady cop, was saying as well. Um, and that is, there's a product I use, OC, which is Organic Collective. And it was a similar thing. It was in the shower and, just when I'd been a victim of human trafficking and not having control of my life. That was kind of the only thing that I could control at that point in time. So it was about the products that I used, and I really liked the smell of that product. So, yeah, using products to kind of find that calm and that inner peace. But then, as well as that, also pre-planning your activities so that when it comes to the weekend, I love craft. I love sewing and quilting and being able to go to quilting classes and interact with people, and as well as that, also start circle again. So being able to go to spiritual development circle and psychic mediumship and really focus on that. And that's something that I haven't done for a long time. So that's something that is still in the works. It's still, I think the first retreat that I've got is on the 5th of July. So it's coming up soon.
Beautiful. And I really love how you were talking about really coming back to the sense of yourself. Because like you said, you know, that life wasn't, you had no control over your life during the human trafficking. So really coming back and feeling yourself with the, like you were saying, with the showers and that, and really coming back to the sense of yourself and following and acting the actions of what you wanted to do. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. And it really took stepping out and doing a course for the right questions to be asked for me to then sort of realize and go, oh, this is something that's going to make me feel more like the person that I used to be. And obviously you're not, you know, you grow and you expand, but it's definitely helping, that's for sure.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Quinn. I'd like to come to you, Rosemary, and ask you, what are some beliefs or emotional patterns you were unconsciously living by, and how did becoming aware of them shift your direction?
That is a loaded question.
Yes.
I love it. Oh, I didn't realize as I was going in my 30s, 40s, 50s, right, that I felt challenged. But looking back now, I realized that there was certain things, behaviors that I was doing that I allowed people to make me feel small. So I would shrink if, and some of them were family members, but or even just coming across somebody and there was a little negative comment. Maybe because I'm an empath as well, it just hit me so hard and like, okay, they're talking about me, but maybe they weren't really talking about me, or they had a better, I looked at it as they had a better life. And how come I don't have that? Playing the victim, being sick all the time. Then I had a near-death experience. And I thought, okay, I'm here for a reason. What is it? And it took 30 years for me to figure it out. But it's okay, because those were all learning steps. And once I made that decision, I'm not going to allow anybody else to make me feel small, things changed amazingly. Still took 3 years, but it changed. And now I can look back at it and don't beat myself up over how I was thinking, how I was acting, what I thought I missed, those kind of things. And those are the negative spirals that we tend to go down sometimes if we don't catch it right away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love how you could recognize the shift from, you know, how looking from outside of yourself and then coming inward and really owning yourself to create the world that you wanted to create.
Yeah, I've always wanted to be a teacher. So even with my siblings and the neighborhood kids, I was always somehow teaching. But it wasn't meant to be in the classroom. Even though I took a year of teachers college, it wasn't meant for me. It was teaching in another way. But I had to learn, I had to be taught before I could do the teaching.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's like And what I can see is you're in the back seat taking on everybody else's stuff, but then moving into that driver's seat and actually driving yourself where you wanted to go.
And
And
thinking, I'm
sorry,
sorry,
no, you
being,
go.
being in the back seat and thinking I was in the driver's seat. I wasn't.
Absolutely. But really it's like you were still carrying out when you were younger, even though you weren't in that position then, is still knowing that you wanted to teach. It's just figuring out how that was going to come through and
Exactly.
recognizing and seeing yourself. I think that's the most important, that you saw yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
A
I'd
long
love
time,
it. Sorry?
but better, I said it took a long time, but better late than never.
Yeah, it's the journey, isn't it? It's not the I've got to be here. It's that journey, and there's that discomfort and that push and pull along the way, but that's what creates you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Jennifer, I'd love to ask you the same. What were some beliefs or emotional patterns you were unconsciously living by, and how did becoming aware of them shift your direction?
Well, there's a story to this. When I was young in my late teens, early 20s, right when I got into college, and it was also the very beginning of my spiritual awakening, I ended up in a 6.5 year relationship with an abusive narcissist. So he was verbally abusive, mentally abusive, he was cheating on me, and the whole time I stayed. And it took, I was still going through my spiritual evolution through this whole process, but the whole time it was this, for anyone who's been in a relationship with a narcissist, you vie for the same level of, love and affection and whatnot that you initially got. And when it was all said and done, I saw this side of him that showed me who he really was. And it was literally seeing this look on his face where his face seemed to morph, almost like another entity was speaking through him, like it didn't look like his face. And that was my wake up call. And I drove home from Mississauga, Ontario, 5.5 hours, and went, oh my God. I like it was like my wake up call that I needed, and I could go, I let myself experience all of that. Like I did that to myself. I'm not a victim. He didn't do that to me. I stayed. I could have left. There were so many other times that I could have left and I didn't, and I stayed, and that's on me. That's not on him. And a part of my spiritual evolution was also coming to the awareness that, and not everyone has to ascribe to this, this is just something that I came to, is that we agree to our experiences before we incarnate in order to help clear the density and karma from previous lifetimes that reflect similar experiences. And so I had it, what that did was it gave me the opportunity to no longer see myself as a victim, so it was empowering. But it also let me like disassociate so I didn't have to take his behaviors personally. I could say, he played his role exactly as he was supposed to so that I could get to this point of having an opportunity to come to this awareness. And what a gift that was. That was the best gift I ever could have been given, was the opportunity to come to that wake up call of, I can choose now to love myself enough to no longer allow that for myself. And I was able to look back at all of previous life experiences where I operated from that same, please love me, please see me as having worth and value type of mindset. And that dropping of the density and by becoming aware of it allowed me to shift my perspective of myself, which shifted my energy, which shifted my emotional state, which then shifted all of my life experiences. So I started getting different people coming into my life, and they again provided new opportunities to have new experiences, new things to become aware of, new things to go, ooh, I have that. That's my shadow. Yeah, okay, I need to love that and integrate it, but no longer operate it from it. So it's like, yes, there's a part of it that is shifting your emotions, shifting your thoughts, but it's also about healing your shadow, because your subconscious mind rules 95% of your experiences. And when you can come to the awareness of what your wounds are and how they're controlling your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, perceptions, etc., and choices, you can go, I operated from my wound in that one. Got it. I'm going to shift that. I'm going to make a new choice and do this. And it gives you a lot more control over how you're manifesting. So your subconscious wounding is not in the driver's seat. Your conscious self, and ironically, I just had a dream about this where my higher self was in the driver's seat. Literally, I was in a car and my brother was driving, but I knew my brother was playing the role of my higher self. So my higher self was in the driver's seat. So I was operating from my higher aspect instead of my conscious self trying to steer the car, or my shadow aspect steer the car. So that it's like having the opportunity for the awareness and make a new choice for me has been life-changing.
Yeah, I love that awareness. That word come up a lot of what you were saying. Awareness, awareness, and awareness. And I feel that that's such a beautiful way for us to come back to ourselves. Because when I'm aware of myself, I can see everything. When I'm not aware of myself, I've got my blinders on. It's like the sun is in my eyes while I'm driving, so I don't get the full picture. I only see tiny bits. But if I'm not even aware of that, it's the whole glare. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank
And
you.
you're more like you're more likely to be reactive when you're not aware.
Totally. And
Yeah.
you know, when we consider that reactiveness, that's where we're always coming from, because it's all our wounds reacting instead of being aware of our wounds and healing them. So thank you for
Yes.
that. That was
Yeah.
beautiful. I'd love to go on to the next question, and I'd like to ask Quinn first. How do you recognize now when your inner child, your trauma or fear is driving the car, and what do you do in these moments?
Okay, so I found this really, I was in two minds as to whether to um, come and do this or not, because I'm still very much in the thick of it. So there's been no justice. There's been, and especially when we're talking about a vehicle, we're talking about a car, because I have this um, person or persons um, have I was literally drugged and taken all over the world, and I've kind of started putting the pieces together and have some thoughts and ideas about who's behind what, but I have had snakes in my car on more than one occasion. So to be literally in the driver's seat and like, panicking, and I'm constantly looking over my shoulder and fearful. So the car is literally my fear place. It's somewhere that I really need to stop and check, like, is this, am I hearing noises? Like, is this something that I need to be physically concerned about, or is this just old triggers that are, coming to the fore? So, I guess as far as the, um, how do you know? I think yes, it's about stopping and listening to your intuition, and there have been impersonators in my life, and now one of my like key witnesses has suddenly got cancer, and that doesn't feel authentic. I'm not saying she doesn't have cancer, but how she actually got it, I'm dubious about. Anyway, so because I know there have been impersonators in my life, and it's physically been proven, like this, person looked the same and sounded the same, then it really is about going inside and using that intuition to go, okay, something doesn't feel authentic here. And then it's my choice. Then it's like, okay, well, you have the decision to either stay and be very cautious about what you say, how you act, what you do, do to continue to feel safe, or I just get up, don't say anything, and I leave. Like, okay, gotta go now. See ya. And at this point, that's all I can do. You know, it's about making choices. And when someone looks the same and they sound the same, you know that based on what they're saying, that something just doesn't feel quite right. Yeah, it's very tricky circumstances to be in. And I think the closer, because my background is screen production, so the closer we get to bringing out the truth, and I think that's kind of why it's also been triggered as well, is because I'm in the process of creating a short film to try and get funding for a mini series to expose the whole lot. And the more that I work on this, I feel like there have been sabotages and blocks, and it's kind of just trying to work your way through it and use your intuition and guide yourself as best you can. So I don't know if that really answers the question,
No,
but
no, that's you've done that beautifully, and I love how you keep coming back to yourself and going with your intuition and just feeling what's going on around you to navigate yourself through.
Mhm.
So, you know, that's such a beautiful way of doing, and your awareness of where you're at. And, you know, that is a big key of our journey, is our awareness of ourselves and really coming back to ourselves and leading from ourselves as you are. So, and no wrong answers there. It's
Yeah,
perfect. Thank
thank
you.
you.
Lauren, I'd like to ask you as well, how do you recognize now when your inner child, your trauma or fear is driving the car, and what do you do in those moments?
I definitely feel when those old thoughts start creeping in, that are usually about me. And I was what sounds to be somewhat of a similar relationship to Jennifer with my ex-husband, a lot of emotional abuse and mental abuse and getting ready to turn physical abuse. Um, which is why I departed that relationship and had to do protective orders because he was threatening me in a variety of different ways and showing up. And so sometimes there will be either something that somebody says or just a memory that I have or a dream that I have that triggers me, or just because our brains are pretty much wired to kind of always find the negative and you have to work towards the positive, that I just, Quinn made a great point that I actually do too, that sometimes I know that what makes me get centered is to get out in nature. So go outside and take a walk. I know that breath work will help me recenter and be able to self-regulate. So those are some things that when I feel my old self kind of creeping in, those old thought patterns that I allowed to become a habit, again, they still kind of creep in. And you never know. Sometimes what ends up being the trigger is very predictable, but sometimes those triggers are very surprising. And I've also just recently been introduced to EMDR, um, which I don't know how to explain, other than like some bilateral movement and the works the size of the brains. Um, but I will say that was hugely impactful, for me to be able to do that kind of on my own when I feel that, um, those feelings and that old self kind of rising in me again, that I can learn what I feel and be more aware that, like, when my blood pressure is rising, when I'm starting to increase my breathing, and that there is a stressor, and that can I identify what that stressor is, and then go to some of those ways of that self-regulate through nature, through EMDR, through that breath work and stuff. And those have just been really incredible tools to help get me through that other side. And then also I've learned that I don't also just need to hold all of that stuff in And so if I'm struggling a little bit more to kind of get myself out of it, just to reach out to either my closest friends that know all of my story, or to just, be honest, like with my husband, and say, hey, I'm just going through something right now and I just need to talk about it, and I just need to get it out there in the open. And then I feel like I can kind of get back into it just by not trying to feel like, for the longest time, like, just I'm a very independent person, and my mom raised me that way. And she also would tell you, and she's since passed, but she always would say, I think I may have gone a little too far on that. Because you often try to deal with things only on your own. And she was also a high school guidance counselor, so she also liked to talk about feelings. So um, it was definitely an interesting balance there. But that is something that I've gotten older and realized that I do have a very empowering network of people that love and support me, that don't want me to feel those ways. And so just sharing that vulnerability and say, you know what, today I'm struggling and I've tried my self-regulatory things and it's not working. So I just need to tap you in. And sometimes just speaking it is enough. Um, and then other times it might just be like, I need to speak it, and then I need to like go watch a movie that's going to make me cry so that like I get out the energy. But definitely trying to acknowledge when those feelings start to come up so that I can work on the tools that I have learned to not make me go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, I love that. That was so beautiful how, because sometimes we try to self-regulate, and it's good if we don't want to go through all our emotions while we're out and about, because, we don't want to do that, or it's not the time and place, which is okay. But then you're coming in and saying, well, yes, I can talk to somebody. I just need to speak
Mm.
it so I can feel it and I can heal. I
Yes,
don't
and
have
actually,
to
I'm really
keep
glad
it
that you
in.
brought up like feelings. And so one of the things that um, has been a detriment from my line of work in law enforcement is um, suppressing feelings and suppressing emotion, because you have to go to, call to call to call, problem to problem to problem. Um, you don't have time to kind of let that stress cycle complete. And so what that has kind of ended up is almost bragging to a point that, like, and my husband might even joke, they're like, oh, I don't have feelings. But you really do have feelings, and you should have feelings, and you should allow yourself to feel those feelings. And that is something that I really did not even allow myself to do, probably until I got divorced. And even like I didn't actually grieve my mother's death until I was grieving my divorce, or my marriage and my divorce. And then realizing and doing a little bit more research about just on myself about, I do need to feel, and I do need to acknowledge all of the different emotions and just kind of let them run their course, and to realize that it's just that energy needs to be released and acknowledged and everything. But the whole feelings part has definitely been a part of my journey to allow myself to feel and not always be that strong person. I was always the one in my family that if things needed to happen and decisions needed to be made and just difficult conversations, Lauren was the one to handle it. Um, so there wasn't a lot of people necessarily asking me how I was doing. And so just again, just that learned suppression of all of that stuff, but just kind of realizing that I do need to speak up for myself, to myself and for myself, to make sure that I am just allowing that process, and to be able to kind of like open and close those circuits of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the saying is that, the universe is always tapping on our shoulder. What do you think about this? Or asking the question, where are you? What are you doing? It's always tapping, and it just, we think it gets worse and worse, but it's just still tapping, but you're not listening. So our
Mhm.
awareness to hearing it and being open and feeling, but to me the key is that I hold myself in such love and compassion when I feel, because when we do that, we allow ourselves to go there more and more because I'm holding myself. I'm not expecting the world to hold me. So thank you.
Exactly. And that
That was so
practice,
beautiful because that's what you're
oh,
doing.
thank you.
You're holding yourself and make sure it's just unconditional love and compassion. All of us.
Absolutely.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Rosemary, I'd love to ask you, what role has emotional honesty with yourself and others played in reclaiming your power and presence?
Wow, emotional honesty. So that is something that I had to come to terms with because, like Lauren said, I thought I was the strong one because I would, if I saw somebody hurting, I'd be the one to try and comfort them. My friends and coworkers would say to me that I always had the right thing to say, but I didn't have the right things to say to me. So I would compartmentalize. Okay, that hurt, that anger, whatever it was, that negativity would go in this little box and it would go in my chest. And that's where it would stay because now it was in the dark, it was in the cupboard, put away. Didn't have to think about it anymore. But then when it builds up and then it just takes one little trigger and then I would explode. And then who is that? Because that's Rosemary's not really that loud, volatile. So I could take a lot of crap, put it in the little box, but then there'd be that one thing and I'd explode. But I didn't realize that I needed to be able to talk to somebody too. I was the one being there for everybody else. So when I came to terms with that, realizing that actually I was allowing people to make me feel these things and put them away. When I made that decision, and I've always looked at things positive until I started realizing those negative emotions. Once I made that decision, then I started to look for things to make me smile, things to make me happy. I love sparkles.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a conversation with somebody and I at the dollar store, I get those little acrylic diamonds and I said, here's your sparkle for the day. So when you're feeling down, you just look at a sparkle. And being in nature, I think it was Lauren said that. Oh my gosh, I love being in nature. That is my grounding. That is my comfort zone. I don't care if there's mosquitoes or whatever. I love being there. And actually, one February, I literally took a forest bathing. I fell in the puddle. And so I got an awakening there for sure. But going for a walk in the concrete, you'd be surprised if you look for a sparkle, how many things that actually sparkle. So now when I see that, it makes me smile. Okay, thank you. There's a little reminder. You're good. You're strong. You're okay. And to love myself more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I do.
sparkles.
I love
Sparkles
sparkles.
everywhere. That just reminded me of my granddaughter has a beautiful dress and it's got like sequins on it and she twirls. And if she's out in the sun, it just hits everything. It's just so beautiful. So
It
yeah,
makes you
and it
smile,
it
doesn't
puts a smile.
it? Yeah.
It really does. So yeah, but I love that how we think we need to help everybody else and we always forget about ourselves. And it's about flipping that. It's about me. And this is what the world doesn't teach us, We've never taught this, that it's got to be me first. It's
Because
got
we're
to
putting up
be.
those blocks, right? Because
Mm,
we're putting those blocks of protection.
yeah.
I can't be hurt anymore. But deep down inside, that hurt still jumps that block and
Yeah.
gets into you. And before you know it, it's like, and then there's the explosion.
And it's like stopping, oh my gosh, what happened there? And follow that thread. Oh, when did that start? How old was I? That's the part of the journey as well, is really that self-exploration. So it's so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you hit that right on the head because there was something I did not even realize happened in my childhood that was part of the steps to make me feel small. I didn't want to speak up. So if I was in a room, I'd be in the background, but I would talk with you one-on-one. I didn't realize there was an event in my childhood that I, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, and it impacts every step of your life until you actually recognize it. And it's not so much the event, it's how it made me feel,
Exactly.
isn't it? It's how I felt about it. So having the, and like I was saying before, holding yourself in love and compassion and really feeling that, feeling through it, and that's where the healing comes, which is beautiful.
So look for a sparkle in your day.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rosemary. That was beautiful. Jennifer, I'd like to ask the same question. What role has emotional honesty with yourself and others played in reclaiming your power and presence?
Well, I think everyone can say that it's pretty big, and not just the honesty, because it is also about, like people have been talking about, not putting your emotions away and kind of stamping them down and moving on with your day, but also looking at what you're feeling, allowing yourself to feel it. And I know everybody else has already kind of said this, but why you're feeling what you're feeling. You know what I mean? Like you can't just yet, because Lauren said it perfectly. You have to let yourself feel it. You have to turn the spigot and let it out, because otherwise the pressure's going to build and it's going to manifest as, a physical disease or whatever. You've got to let it out. But okay, but why am I feeling what I'm feeling? Where is this coming from? And this goes back to looking at the childhood wounding. And so for me, that's what emotional honesty is why do I feel what I'm feeling? Is this coming from subconscious programming from childhood wounding? Is that where, or should I, or is that genuinely like, is this justified? But why am I choosing this? Why am I allowing it? Because I can choose any response I want. I'm in control of how I feel. No one can make me feel anything. I have to allow it. And so kind of going through that self-awareness and that kind of inner dialogue of the why and the where did it come from and why am I choosing this, and oh, because I'm perceiving that, I'm perceiving it from through this wounded filter, and but I've chosen to allow myself to react instead of choosing consciously how I'm going to respond to this, and kind of talking yourself through it. And that's where I think honesty is. That's where the real emotional honesty comes from, is why you're feeling what you're feeling. And like with grief and like with letting yourself feel the feelings, um I feel like I don't know that honesty is the appropriate word for that so much as it is vulnerability, like emotional vulnerability, and really being okay with, pouring your guts out when you're able to. And Lauren, I love that you're doing the EMDR, and the deep breathing. I've kind of put together something that I do when I'm feeling dysregulated, because I went through another what a long time friendship, but she changed due to, different circumstances, but she was no longer herself, and she became a covert abuser. It was like covert abuse, so it was really subtle, but it would be like invalidating digs and stuff. And I noticed my shoulders were rounding forward. I couldn't take deep breaths, and I was like the deep breathing guru. Um, and I was always on guard. I was very careful about what I would say so that she would hopefully not say something that would degrade me or insult me, or nitpick me. And I noticed that after I ended the friendship, that I was still operating from that trauma response. And so it was like, okay, I had to have a little bit of a wake up call an engagement between another friend of mine, and I realized, wait, I'm operating as if I'm still in that friendship, but this friend has not done to me what the other friend did. Why am I responding like I'm still engaging with her? Oh, because my nervous system still thinks I'm in that trauma. And so I know all about deep breathing, but I had to learn about the psoas and how to stretch the psoas, because the psoas holds emotional stress and is directly connected to your diaphragm. So you can't take deep breaths if you've got emotional and stuff in your psoas. So I'm like, okay, doing the stretches. Okay. All right, I can breathe every once in a while. Great. All right, I just gotta have to maintain the stretching. What a pain in the rear. And then I learned about vestibular movement, right? So the amygdala stores the trauma. So that's why where your brain thinks you're still in a constant state of trauma, and it will perceive a threat where there is no actual threat. And so you're always going to be on guard, right? Well, the amygdala responds well to vestibular movement. So like gentle swaying. And I find myself doing this naturally. When I'm feeling relaxed, I'll just gently do this and it looks weird, but I don't care. Or you sit in a rocking chair. You know how rocking chairs feel really good? That's vestibular movement, but that calms the amygdala. It's just like when your mom would rock you, in her arms, say, or like, hold you and sway. Same thing. Your brain responds to that and it tells the amygdala, okay, calm down. You're not in a threat. So do the deep breathing to massage the vagal nerve. Do the swaying. I like swaying better than rocking, and I'll get to that in a second. Smile, because smiling tells the brain to produce happy hormones. So that tells the amygdala, okay, all right, things are good. We like that. That's great. So smile, sway, deep breathe. You can hum if you want to really massage that vagal nerve, but then move your eyes in the opposite direction. So if you're leaning this way, look that way. And you look like a cuckoo clock, but boy, does it work. And when you do it opposite, it balances the hemispheres of your brain. You can also do, this is called the butterfly hug. So you can like tap your clavicle or do your leg. That's more bilateral stimulation. And then visualize a happy memory, not just happy, visualize a memory of a time when you felt the most safe, because that's really what you want to tell your brain, your nervous system, is that you are safe. You are safe, right? So think of a memory of when you felt the most safe and the most at peace. Because it's not about getting excited and happy. That's another elevated state. It's about calming and being at peace. And so if you can have that visualization, sort of like what Neville Goddard teaches, Abraham Hicks, a lot of people teach you that you visualize for manifestation, right? But visualization also puts you in the emotional state that you were in when you were in that moment, and your brain doesn't know the difference between when you're imagining it and when it's actually happening. So if you put all of those two together in 2 weeks, my shoulders were down, I could deep breathe, and I didn't have to stretch every damn day to be able to breathe. And that for me has been my magic bullet for regulation. After I may or may not have bawled my brains out or, called it a friend and ranted. But you got to get that out and then you regulate.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And I love when we use all these tools and that we're really holding ourselves in that loving compassion and using all these tools that you beautiful ladies have spoken about. What it does is in healing, when we find that we come up to that same position again, or someone has said that same thing that's triggered me 100 times, it does not affect me anymore. It doesn't have that, we don't have that reaction, because what I've done is I've felt through and can now know and taken what's happened here and healed it within me. So I'm not reactive to it over there, which is such a beautiful thing. I have loved this sharing. It has been so beautiful, and it has spoken to so many people in the sense that we're all individuals, we're all different, and we have all moved and shifted through things in life differently, but we're all heading for the same thing, is our self-love, our self-compassion, our self-awareness, which therefore helps us unload and unlock and allow more love to come in, to actually see more. So I'd love to thank you and appreciate your time for being here with me. But what I would like to ask each one of you, if you can, is what message would you give to someone also? If someone was just starting out in this, what is something small that they can do for themselves that shows them how to be more aware of themselves, to come back to themselves? Like when we first started, our discovery of ourselves, what is something that that they can do to put them in their driver's seat? So I'd love to start with you first, Rosemary.
I had to think there for a minute, but looking back, beating myself up for what I perceived as failures, they're not failures. They're lessons, they're stepping stones to the you that you are meant to be. And be kind to yourself. Everything is okay. There is no such thing as perfection, because perfection is only delay. So that's my thought. Oh, you still muted, Denise. There we go.
Sorry, Dale. I was asking Quinn, what would you?
Oh, sorry. I think sorry, I can't remember the name. Is it Jennifer? The lady before really hit the nail on the head for me. It's about being, and it's something that I really promote to my clients. If you're in times of stress, that any kind of repetitive activity, so whether it's gardening, crochet, quilting, it relieves the stress. It has all those benefits for the brain that, help relieve all the stress and bring you back to that place of center. And then once you have that, then you can deal with whatever else is going on in the world. So, sometimes if I'm in a meeting and I know it's going to be stressful, I will take my crochet into the meeting. I can sit there with it under the table. I'm still listening, I'm still present, but it is something that actively relieves the stress. So
Beautiful. Thank you.
no
Lauren?
problem.
I think the one thing is just to not give up on yourself, because when you're going through these things, it's going to get uncomfortable. It might be a bit unknown. You might feel pain or confusion or whatever because you might not have pushed yourself in this way before. But it is worth it. And there is such a freedom on the other side. And just to kind of remember your why, that you're trying to work through things and trying to find that self love. And so just, take the breaks when you need to, but push yourself and expect it to be uncomfortable, but expect there to be an even greater reward on the other side.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Jennifer?
So I will take Rosemary's self-forgiveness. I will take Lauren's giving yourself grace and mercy, and I will take Quinn's doing active meditation during stressful times, because that is exactly what that is. But I will add to that and just say, the key really is doing your shadow work and becoming self-aware, right? If we know that our subconscious minds control what we manifest, we're not in the driver's seat, and you can only get in the driver's seat through self-awareness. And so in that process, yes, forgive yourself, because you've made mistakes, but those are learning opportunities. Like, thank God I dated a narcissist for 6.5 years. It woke me up. Thank God I did that. All of those experiences, you couldn't be where you are if you had not had those, experiences. So see them as opportunities to make a new choice and be a new version of yourself. And then just become self-aware about, why did I make those choices? Why did I do that? Then you're in the driver's seat, because then you can make a new choice. And then if you do that mental visualization of seeing yourself as the healed version of you, okay, what would the healed version of me do? How would I think? How would I feel? How would I respond differently if I was no longer responding from my reactive self? You kind of touched on this earlier, Denise, about, it makes it easier for you to then respond from that healed aspect, because healing isn't making all of those wounds and things go away. Healing is about not operating from that aspect of yourself. They still make you who you are. They just don't control you anymore. So that's what I would say.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And for me, what I would say is get curious. The curiosity of yourself is the undoing of everything, because you get to get curious and see who you are, how you are, why you are, when you are. You get to get curious about oh, do I like this feeling or don't I like this feeling? The curiosity of me is the greatest adventure you'll ever see. So I think that rhymed. That was beautiful. But yeah, it's about awareness. Everything you ladies spoke about, that's what it's about. And I'd love to thank you for being here. And I have enjoyed sharing what you have had to say. It has just lit me up so much. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everybody else out there, it's great to know that we're all individuals and we don't have to be the same and we all do it differently. That's the beautiful journey. Thank you.
And thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Truly, thank you. Congratulations for an absolute wonderful first panel for facilitating. It's really. Thank you for Lauren, for Quinn, and for Rosemary for being a participant on your first panel too, and for our beautiful Jennifer who's returning again as another incredible participant. I love what you said, Jennifer. I thoroughly agree about the rocking chair. I've got mine here, and the breathing and everything else. So really good stuff. It has been a wonder. For everyone out there who is listening, please do click on the links below. Reach out to these amazing women who have just given up an hour of their time to share their wisdom and their passion and, you know, to help you in becoming the driver of your own life, getting in your own driver's seat. Thoroughly do recommend reaching out to everyone. And come back and tune in for our next panel discussion, which is coming up very soon. And while you're there, click on our links for Sacred You to find out everything that we have to offer. We have panel discussions, we have tribes, we have our Pathways to Wellbeing podcast. Coming soon is our Wisdom Circle. So do check us out. That's sacredu.love. And if you put /join free, come and join us in our village. We have our own online village community. Join us for free. You'll see so much happening. And on that note, I'm going to say it's been an honor again. And thank you ever so much for sharing your wisdom. Look forward to the next one.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you for that. Just let me stop